Hi there. Today I'm going to go on to a fun, simple little drawing of an old favorite character of mine. So what I want to do is I want to get a sense of a flow going through the figure, and I'm not looking for anything too fancy in terms of the camera angle on the character. I'm looking for a gentle low angle. I want to get a nice flow through the form. Let me just erase a few of these construction lines and get started on it for real. It's a commission type piece, which means I want it to be decent size to show off the figure, but at the same time I want to put a little bit of context around it, a bit of background, so let's see where it takes me. Starting as I usually do with the head and torso and hips, trying to get the core of the body sorted out first. And that's going to help to guide me to where I need to go. A little more foreshortening, so I think I want to push up the hips a bit. Allocate a little more room for the legs. Center line is so important to keep track of where you're going with the angle on the character, whether you're dealing with a frontal view or a side view or more of a 3/4 in this case on the figure. Get a sense of a low angle on the head as well. This is a real kind of a classic pose that I'm going for. I want to sort out at least where that arm's going first, see if I like it. And then the other one, and in this case a lot of it is behind the form of the body. If you try to show too much, in a case like this, you'll start to flatten the form out. It's nice to have it hidden. So that arm, this portion of the arm is definitely hidden in behind, and just let it be. Gesture of a fist, and in this case what I'd like is to have a stronger offset here, kind of an active passive side going on, with this being the passive side, this having the sharp curves to it. I could go down with both legs straight, but I'm doing a very, very similar positions on the arms, both arms, and because of that, the fact that they are synced up, I think I'd like to deliberately not sync up the legs. So let me just pull one leg forward a bit. I always try to get the natural curve working for me. In this case, you can't really see much of what's going on in terms of the curve through the thigh, but you can definitely see it through the lower leg. So I'm just trying to keep a little of that in there for the sake of keeping it fluid. That fluidity is something that you really want to try to keep in your posing. And then I think the other leg nice and straight. I'm looking at this from a kind of an odd angle, trying to keep my head out of the way, but I think that also means that I'm probably distorting proportion a bit, so I'm going to shorten that leg up. I get the feeling that the knee should be a little higher up. The end of the leg, the wrap up at the foot should be a little bit higher up than it is right now. So, while it looks pretty good at my angle is not a great angle. So I'm trying to make adjustments for that. Make that just a little bit broader. That is, I'm just going to pull this arm out a bit more. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. to start throwing some features on as quickly as possible now. I think I'm getting the essence of the pose where I want it to go. So now it's time to start to lay on a little bit of the costuming at least. Let me see. I'm looking for a kind of a classic Iron Man. Semi-classic, not going right back to the earliest. Just start to rough this in very fast and loose. There'll be time to tighten it up later on. But I want to get basic blocking in with anything like this. You're looking to put the basic landmarks down first, the larger landmarks, and then find your way to the smaller things that you need to draw, the smaller features, using the larger landmarks as a guide. Don't try to do everything at once, I always say. Try to break it down into tasks that make sense. There we are. It's just about time for me to move this artwork. And I really would like to see it from a bit of a different angle for a moment. I'll do this first. Just working through the foot. Let's go back up to the head for a minute. Have to get in closer. Okay, that's fine. I was going to move the head a little bit more, tilt it a bit more, but I think that seems to work all right for what I'm looking for. So I'll just start knocking it in. All right, so now I gotta move around and see what I'm doing with these hands. All right, so basic blocking, working out the row of the fingers in a form like this, just trying to taper these lines. Main thing with these is you don't want them to end up looking like a row of sausages, so it's nice to try to find all the forms that are distinctive to hands. Part of that's the baby finger pulling in a little bit. So, working that, yeah. Then the fist, completed by the thumb. All right. Looking over this one a bit. All right, so working the other hand a little bit. think I'll broaden them a little bit. I sort of feel like he's a little narrow in the shoulders, so I just want to expand these big shoulder pieces here, and then I'm going to pull the insert over a little bit for the arm, and that will start to imply a little more breadth to the character on this side of the body. Plus I think I can do a little bit more over on this side too, just to give him a little bit stronger chest. Just pushing it outwards, 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 a little bit on each side, I think, is the way to go here. Yeah, that's too bad. Okay. Start to sort that out. And I think I'd like to push this up because that chest is rounding around, and all of this would be moving back into the background, you might say. As it curves around the form, it curves around and almost disappears. So I'm thinking just push that whole triangular portion up a little higher. That just makes more sense to me. Sort of define the shin, but I don't know whether I'll keep that line or not later on, considering the shaping of the armor. Let's have a look. I think I'll do is just define these forms first. And then find my way to that shape. Should be using the one on the back of my pencil. That's what I put it there for. All right. And layer up. There we go. Some of the details on the foot now. Trying very hard not to get my head, the back of my head into the video. All right, what about those gauntlets? Start to sculpt in a little bit of anatomy. I think I'll pull this piece out a bit more. To build that form out a bit. Some of the lines, defining lines on the chest. This gets tricky because these curves go opposite to the perspective. The perspective, you want curves like this. You want to encourage those kinds of curves. The other ones, they push against the perspective. So in a sense, what you have to do is flatten them out a little bit as you go. De-emphasize them. Always be conscious of following the form. Think about the shape that you're dealing with in the cross contours. through the figure and just try to define based on that. Yeah, okay, that's good. Just want to mass up the knee a little bit on this character, push it out a bit further if I can, finding any excuse to get away from that area right there, because of course I don't want the tangent of having that running into that leg. And I wouldn't mind bulking that up a little bit. So it's a graphics consideration as much as anything, and there was really nothing innately wrong with the proportions of the knee. I just felt that if we could make it work a little bit larger, it would pop that leg forward a bit. So it's a waste of time. Just inferring the boot jets. Just looking at it, wondering if I'm happy, completely happy with the orientation of the head. I was originally thinking of pushing the head around to slightly more of a frontal view. That is very much in lockstep with the upper body, and I so often say to my own students, if you put the head in perfect alignment with the upper body, you're probably losing some of the potential dynamic for your pose. That there's something about creating a head position that's just slightly twisted or slightly cocked or something, not perfectly aligning it with the torso, with the upper body, that really seems to help to bring gestural life to a pose. So, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's not like you always have to do that, but it does seem to be useful to keep in mind, and it does help a lot of poses if you make those minor adjustments at the last moment and do a simple thing like adjust the head position. So just maybe the hint of that ear shell on the other side coming through around the jawline. All right, so I've got pretty much the basics of this working the way I want it to. Maybe just a little bit of work on this one gauntlet on this side. Broaden it a little bit, suggest that it slopes like that. It has a couple of these like chevron type forms here, based on the one that I'm working on, the version. All right, so that seems to be working out all right. I wouldn't mind a little bit of context to it, though. So what I'm thinking was to keep it simple, as if he's rising up above some kind of explosion down below. I'm just thinking about the cauliflower that I ate last night. Yeah, lovely. And maybe even just trying to get a bit of kind of an action line thing happening here, and then I'll sort of work out what to do with it. There could be all kinds of debris built into it. All right, so I think that one kind of gets in the way. I'm going to take that one out, open up some clear space around Iron Man here. Let me just double check on this hand. I'd like to sort of firm that up a bit more. I'm thinking there's a couple of little things I'd like to correct about it. And then I'll pretty much be done with this, at least in terms of the rough phase. I mean, obviously a little more finishing to do, but that is something that should be fairly self-evident, whereas getting to this point is what so many of you would be puzzling over, and hopefully that this kind of demo will help you with. All right, let me just do a little bit of firming up here. And so all right, and I think that's it for now. That gets me to where I need to be on this one, and I'm trying very hard not to let these demos go on too long. Short and to the point. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you around the next time I sit down and do some sketching. Bye for now.